Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Cliff Kennedy, the CEO of Frios Gourmet Pops. And by joining the Frios family, you're not only joining the fastest-growing ice pop franchise in the United States, but you're also joining one of the easiest and most flexible franchise concepts around. We're going to talk to Cliff about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. Stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach. Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system. Coach. Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed. Consult. Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track. And advise. Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032. That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Cliff Kennedy, the CEO of Frios Gourmet Pops. And by joining the Frios family, you're not only joining one of the fastest-growing ice pop franchises in the United States, but you're also joining one of the easiest and most flexible franchise concepts around. Hi, Cliff. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you today? Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is my pleasure, Cliff. When I heard your story, I said we had to have you on this show. So I always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Cliff?
Mobile, Alabama.
Oh, nice. And it's probably a great day for Frios, isn't it? It's hot probably down there, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
It's hot up here in Pennsylvania too, Cliff. I think we're going to hit like 100 degrees over the next couple of days. So you know, it's certainly it's a timely interview. Maybe, you know, I thought, as I mentioned earlier, Cliff, you know, it's a wonderful story, and it's really the reason, you know, we started this show 14 years ago. I thought, you know, maybe, you know, you can go back to the beginning, because I understand that Frios actually started in a garage, and you're a very big part of the history. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the previous owner, let's start with that, did start Frios Gourmet Pops out of his garage. He was trying to escape the corporate struggles of life and everything. So we just started putting some pops in molds and selling them on street corners and at festivals. And then, my story began when I would get stuck in traffic every day, and I would see this Frios stand, and I see all these people lined up, and I was like, oh, my gosh, you just got to try one. I'm stuck in traffic. What else do I do? So I will never forget that day. I tried a key lime pie pop that we have, and it has changed the course of my life forever in what I used to do in a family business. And I was like, this is amazing. And so I had to be a part of it. And from there, I just became a franchisee very quickly. I bought that lady out. She was looking for a transition anyway. And then a couple of months later, lo and behold, I become the CEO of the company and move it from where it started in Gadsden, Alabama, and move the production facility and everything, corporate headquarters, down to Mobile.
It's such an impressive story, Cliff. I know you probably told the story 100 times, but for people hearing it for the first time, I mean, it really is. It's very impressive. I was thinking of because I've seen other interviews with you in the past, is talking about sitting in traffic. It seemed to me it was almost like this was your destiny, wasn't it? To some extent, it was almost like calling to you in some sort of way, wasn't it?
It really was. And so I've never really thought about this, but, I've always said I've got my grandfather in me a lot because he was an entrepreneur, and he started our family business out of the back of his car with an 8th grade education. And I was like, my business kind of started and my future started in my car because I got stuck in traffic and I ate the pops in my car on the way home. So, my destiny was fulfilled through just riding home and eating a gourmet pop.
That's wonderful. And then, so it's interesting, Cliff, because, I mean, you become a franchisee to Frios, and then you must have realized, I guess, you really believed in the brand, didn't you? And I think, what I get out of the story is you saw that there was this tremendous potential. Is that what kind of led you to go to the owners and say, you know what, I want to buy you guys out?
Absolutely. And so, every good company has a great product. And I firmly believed in it. And beyond just having that first key lime pie, then I tried many more flavors. And then I went to my family and said, y'all got to try this. What's this all about? And I was just like, then I started to learn a little bit more as I became a franchisee. It's like, they always say in franchise, you go in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
Yes. Right.
But there's certain stages of ownership where you have the idea and you can bring it on to the next stage and then you sell it off. And, so I think that's where the company was. It's like, it's got the great product. It had the mindset. It had the great branding and everything. Now I just need to take it to the next level, bring that infrastructure and training and processes in place and assemble my team. And so that's where it was. And that's where the opportunity was. It's like, it's good, but it could be great. And so that's what I'm doing now is assembling my team or have assembled the team, and we're really building out the infrastructure so we can be a large company now.
That's wonderful. I was thinking back, Cliff, before the show. I said, when I was a kid, I used to remember, when, the ice cream man used to come around. I think when I was a kid, they used to call it Little Jimmy's or Mr. Softy or something like that. But I imagine in those days it was probably a lot of preservatives and chemicals in that ice cream. Right? This is totally different, is it? How do you typically describe Frios Gourmet Pops? If you're meeting someone for the first time, if they see you wearing the tie-dye shirt, or if you're at a franchise show, how would you describe the concept to someone?
For me, and just the typical product itself of the pops we create, we create products that are exactly what they say they are. So again, I always go back to key lime pie because it's near and dear to my heart. Yeah. But it's just like your grandmother made. So it's got the lime zest in there. It's got the graham cracker. It really is what it says. It's got the fruits. You see the fruits in there because we use real fruits. We don't add preservatives and additives and everything to our product. So, it might be from 3 or 4 ingredients to 6 ingredients. We have, the Black Forest cake, which has the cake in there. And we have blueberry cheesecake, which really tastes like blueberry cheesecake that you make.
Amazing.
So that's what it is. You're eating exactly, and it takes you back to that childhood. So we don't focus a lot on our product. We focus on what our product makes you feel. Like you say, and so many people have said it before, it's like, golly, that pop makes me feel like a little kid again. That's what we want you to feel like and enjoy it with your children.
It's very powerful, right? Because, products can do that. It can bring you back to that time. It brings back a memory. It was interesting because you said something in an interview that you don't sell. It's not the product that you're selling. What you're selling is happiness, isn't it? And I teach marketing for Purdue University Global, and I said, wow, I'm going to share that with my students because that's really what you're selling, isn't it? It's happiness.
Yes, that's exactly what we sell. And you might have heard me say this, and I say it all the time. It's, one of the regrets I've had since I've taken over this company and trying to develop out something was I was finishing up a run one day, and my neighbor, who has since passed away, Miss Ruth, she said, Cliff, those pops you gave me yesterday made me feel like a little girl again. And I was like, aha, that's it. That was my aha. Like, I'm not selling aha moment. I'm selling the experience. Like, I will never forget the time and place I was when I tried one for my first time. But it's like it takes you back. And, like, it's not about the pop. It's about, like, the experience around that. And it's like we tell everybody, in the crazy world that we're in right now with the pandemic and everything else, political and fighting, like, you know what? Try eating one of our pops and not put a smile on your face and be stressed out. It's impossible. Right. Like, that's what we do. We sell happiness for a living.
And that, I was thinking about that too as you were saying that, Cliff. It's because, COVID was a very difficult time for everybody, of course, and it was kind of a theme, last year. Every podcast we did seemed to touch upon the coronavirus. And I hate to use the word opportunity, but it seems like there was some type of opportunity here with the coronavirus in the sense that maybe it was the model shifted a little bit where it seems like you were going, I guess, to the customer as opposed to like customers coming to you. How did you handle that time?
It was, take away everything it's done to this country and the world itself. For us, for Frios, it was transitional. It was transformative in the way we operate our business now. So we realized, we've got these brick and mortars, which is great. They're good home bases where you can get your pops every day, but we realized we've got to mobilize. So we had our carts and we were going to neighborhoods and trailers and like the happiness and people putting thank you Frios for being here in sidewalk chalk in their driveways and writing us letters because they were just that sense of happiness. It was like, this is it. Like, we've got to mobilize the troops. Let's go to the people. And so that's when we said, we're going to wrap up some vans in tie-dye. They're bright. They're fun. They're lit up with LED lights. Like, we're bringing happiness to the people. So, again, it goes back. We're the modern-day ice cream man now. Like, we are bringing the happiness to the neighborhoods.
That's terrific. And those vans, Cliff, I mean, they're moving billboards, aren't they? I mean, they really stand out, don't they? I've seen pictures of them. I mean, they're fantastic. I mean,
they
you
really
think about
are.
all the people you're advertising.
It's hard not to see one of those.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it is. As we mobilize, we need something bright that we don't need. There's not a lot of brands out there that are using that bright color tie-dye that we use on our vans. Like, it's an attention grab, and it's fun. That's what we are. We're a fun company.
It's fun. Yeah, it's a great word. I imagine that, technology is part of the business today. You mentioned in the beginning, when the original owner, he starts off in his garage, so it probably wasn't it probably wasn't using a lot of technology at the time. But, how have you incorporated technology in the business today, Cliff?
So for us, we're a very, very, very simple company to operate. Yeah. There's not a lot of building out and understanding. You go out and sell a prepackaged product for a living. Right. So the technology for us was honestly, like, I consider a Ford van that we get, the Ford Transit van, like technology for us.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
What we institute and bring into that. And then it's also the back-end operation. So, for all the people that are listening, being a franchisor, there's a lot of work in transitioning your FDD. And so last year we had to rewrite our FDD, which takes months and months. We cramped it down into about 30, 45 days. And so we had to transition all of our franchising model and training systems and everything last year. So now we're getting the technology behind it and how do we really grow this platform successfully and financially. And so that's what we're implementing now is tracking and looking at app building and all that. So now we're really building out more people on my team to help out as well. So it's a constant moving process with technology.
That's wonderful. I'm thinking about the industry itself, Cliff. I mean, I guess it's just safe to say, I mean, you're part of a very big industry, aren't you? I mean, it's a massive industry, and I'm sure it's growing now because you have this niche in the market. But are there any kind of numbers in the industry? I guess just it's safe to say it's a pretty big industry, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very safe to say. We're lucky that we're always getting ranked number one recently with Entrepreneur in our specific category of being a mobile franchise system. So, yes, we have endless opportunity right now to grow because there are other mobile platforms that are out there, but people that are really jumping into franchising now don't really understand all the complexities of maybe building out a brick and mortar, but they want to have the flexibility, especially in the world today, of controlling their own destiny and having the flexibility to work and be around their family. So now as we're bringing people along into our system, it's very common for us to see the pictures posted, and they've got their kids with them working events because it's a family-friendly atmosphere. So they're having fun, teaching their kids the value of $1 and spending the time together.
You probably have 100 stories, Cliff. But I mean, since you've become the owner to Frios Gourmet Pops, I mean, what's one of the most interesting things that's happened to you? Again, like I mentioned, there's probably dozens of stories you can reference. I mean, the story of you again becoming the owner of the company or driving one day and sitting in traffic, that's got to be in there. But does anything else stand out over the years?
Yeah, it's just for me, there's no class, there's no college class that can teach you how to be a CEO. And so what we say at a lot around my office, I don't know what I don't know, and we don't know. I hate saying but we don't know what we don't know. Right. And so a lot of it was just what I thought was right, and, hey, we're going to go full steam ahead, we're going to invest money in this, it's going to help us out. It would fall flat. And so what I really learned is as a first-time franchisor was like, you've got to listen to the franchisees. You've got to hear their stories. And so for me, the biggest learning thing business-wise was making sure I listened to my franchisees. And it's been a hard road of me, a lot of learning lessons. But I'm continually trying to better myself and the company through listening to others and not just implementing strategies I believe is the best.
It seems to me you have a bit of an advantage too, Cliff, because again, you were a franchisee. You come from a family of entrepreneurship. I think that probably certainly helps you in your role as CEO, doesn't it?
It does, and so it's the same way with my family and everything else. Like, it's always just been when you work for the family business I was a part of, you become family. And so we say it here. Once you invest your personal wealth into my franchise system that I'm creating and the vision and everything, you become a part of my family. You're an extended family member now that I've got to take care of you as much as I take care of my children and wife at home. So it's very important to me to make sure that everyone is equal in all of this and that we're all in it for, creating something great.
That's wonderful. You mentioned your franchisees, Cliff. What types of characteristics or traits do you look for in your prospective franchisees? I mean, when you're meeting with them, there's probably something that you're looking for to determine if they're a good fit for the model. And what's important to you?
No matter who it is, I need them to be outgoing. I need the leadership to be energetic and a part of their community. Because if you sit back on your heels and you're not willing to pick up the phone and get an event or whatever, you're not going to be successful in our model. You have to have, if it's not you might be the business-minded person that can do the books, but you better have someone on your team that's going to be out there, the face of the company, showing excitement, because it becomes common. Like all my franchisees, they become kind of the pop king, the pop queen, or whatever have you. Exactly. Like, hey, you're the pop lady. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. So you've got to be ingrained in your community, and that's what we're looking for.
I imagine the training may have changed a little bit with COVID, Cliff. It seemed like that was another common theme of last year. But what is the training like now, or what will it be like in the future?
That's what's always been so crazy for us with our training is that even when we're talking to potential franchisees, by the end of the call, they're like, well, can I go do this? Can I go do that? They're like trying to train me on how can I go through. Because we're a simple system. I mean, you're selling pops to corporate events and business events and festivals and sporting events. Like, they're selling. I was like, look, I joke all the time. I was like, as long as it's legal and ethical, go do it. Like, I'm not going to stop you from, creating business. So our training just goes back to, we have an online training portal for them to watch with tons and tons of video content where, hey, here's how you pick up the phone. Here's the person you contact. Here's how you get your first 100 days started. And we just walk them through every step.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, after doing this show for 14 years now, Cliff, I've come to the determination, and we kind of mentioned it in the intro, is what I love about your model is as you mentioned, it's easy and it's flexible. And I've always felt that, that's what makes a great franchise, is that it's easy, it's flexible, and it can be duplicated. This could be duplicated anywhere, couldn't it? I mean, it's a very simple model.
It's super simple, and that's what's crazy. It's like people start to ask us, like, well, what about this? What about
right.
this? I'm like, no. It's like this van comes with a freezer in there. You order pops from us. You put them in there, and you go to an event. Like, I can't overcomplicate. I can try to complicate this for you, but it's just going to be worse. And then that's what happens. Like, wow, this is so simple. My kids can do this with me.
Right.
Wow, I can pass this down to my kids. It's like, it's a very low-cost system, and that's what we kind of learn is like, this is a teaching tool not only for us to teach current entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs how to really run a business, but at the same time, they're teaching their kids how to be entrepreneurs, and their kids get their friends involved. And so that's what I really love is like just the entrepreneur aspect of it, where we're giving people a launching platform to really do what they want to do with their life and control their own destiny.
How would you describe a typical day to our listeners as a Frios Gourmet Pop franchisee, Cliff? I mean, if you're like, how do they begin the day, the middle of the day, and how do they end the day?
Yeah, so the beginning of the day, I mean, the flexibility is great because you might already have your events. Let's consider a day that's already set up with events. You're not making call and landing. You're going to take your kids to school. You might go work out. You might go get your coffee. Then all of a sudden, now you've got your deliveries to make. So you might go to the doctor's office, which we're doing a lot of right now. And because people are donating money to franchisees to give to doctors and nurses during this time. So they might go donate some pops to a school. They might set up at a welcome back to school party. And then at the end of the afternoon, they might go to a corporate event for somebody's birthday party. And then they might do another drop-off. That's typical. Or like a Friday, they're going to go to the high school football game, park their van or their car there, and there's going to be a long line, and they're going to sell pops there.
What advice, Cliff, would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? Because now, you've switched hats, you changed hats, you're a franchisee, now you're a franchisor, and again, in studying franchising all these years, it's amazing how many franchise systems there are out there. I think they estimate there's I've seen 2,500, 3,000, 3,500 different systems. And you come from a family of entrepreneurs. From everything you've learned up to this point in your life, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? Because we find that most of them in the beginning are confused. They just don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, so I say this line all the time, but life isn't a dress rehearsal. You get one shot at this. So if your future is becoming an entrepreneur, do your due diligence and make sure whatever you pick, you're going to be happy. As cliche as it sounds, but it's not work for me coming in every day. I absolutely love this. So understand that none of it, as easy as I say, as much as I say this is an easy concept, there's still a lot of hard work involved in this. You're running your own business. You want to be successful. Hard work is undefeated. So as you get in there, make sure you deep dive into vetting out other franchisees, talking to them. What is a typical day like? Great question. First time I've ever been asked that. But that's it. But just do something you love. Find a concept you're really passionate about. Look, I love food. I love helping, but the greater thing for me is I loved helping entrepreneurs. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I loved my family business, but I needed to control my own destiny. And that was it for me. It's like, just find what it is that makes you happy.
And that's what Frios does. We went back to the beginning is that you sell happiness. I mean, there's a lot of different choices out there when it comes to franchising, Cliff. As you mentioned, food could be fun, but I mean, there's transmission franchises, and I'm sure it's not always so fun when you have to tell someone that they have to pay several $1,000s for a new transmission or something like that. Not to pick on that industry, but you're right. I mean, as you said, you have to ask those deep-rooted questions. Is what do you want it to do for you? And at the end of the day, this is a fun franchise, right? I mean, you get to put a smile on people's face, and what greater joy is there than that, right?
You're exactly right. And look, somebody might love working on transmissions and being a part of that industry. That's exactly. That's great for them. But I'm just lucky. I'm in an industry that I practice what I preach. I want everyone to be happy. But I'm in an industry, in a business that I sell happiness for a living. Yeah, that's powerful. That's wonderful. So I can ask you, because you are the CEO of the company, Cliff. I mean, where do you see Frios Gourmet Pops? If it's like 3 years, 5 years, if you can look into that crystal ball, where do you see the company? Yeah, so we're currently at 50 locations. I currently see us with the opportunity ahead of us. I see we'll probably have 300 to 400 locations in the next 3 to 4 years, and we'll be all across the country and well on our way to 1,000 locations. That's fantastic. What's the best way, Cliff, for our listeners to get more information on Frios Gourmet Pops? Of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but even the product itself. Are there any websites you can kind of direct our listeners to? Yeah, if they just want general information and kind of see all our flavors that we offer, it's friosgourmetpops.com. Okay. Or if they want to see more information about becoming a franchisee, it's just friosfranchise.com. That's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Cliff. I've been waiting to interview you for a month now. So it was great to have you on the show, and I'd like to invite you back, over the next year or so as you continue to grow, because as I mentioned to you, I think this is a wonderful franchise opportunity. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. Great questions, and I look forward to coming back in a year or so. Thanks so much, Cliff. This has been my pleasure. And we'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Today's Great Quote in Franchising is being brought to you by
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3600. 3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com, or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, Don and I have been hosting for years and almost have done 100 shows up to this point, and during that time frame, we've had some fantastic quotes on our show. Today, you're going to get to hear from one of the top franchise attorneys in the country, Kevin Hine, and Kevin's going to talk to you about the hallmark of franchising. Our podcast today is being brought to you by Franchise Interviews, LLC, and Franchise Interviews gives you an up-close and behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get inside tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show on Blog Talk Radio, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and franchise attorneys. And our monthly franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise. And here we go with Kevin Hine.
I think whether or not they can easily replicate their system, the more difficult, the more detailed the operation is, the harder it is to replicate. So, for example, take the food industry. You see lots and lots of franchise companies in the quick service restaurant segment, in the fast casual segment, but you see very few successful franchise companies in the fine dining or the white tablecloth segment.
Sure.
And the reason is that it's very difficult to teach other people to execute at that level. When you've got people coming in at a very high price point, they don't want just food, they want a good experience, and that requires a certain level of skill and expertise, and it's very hard to replicate that across restaurants, even in a single city, much less across the country. So you want to make sure that you have something that's pretty easy to replicate and that you can train people on, because frankly you want people to you want your franchisees to come in and be able to duplicate what you've done, or you're not going to build a very successful franchise system.
Right. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons people invest in a franchise, of course, the money aspect, but because of this, the simplicity, hopefully, that the franchisor puts together. So this is a big part of you know, what you're talking about here, Kevin.
Absolutely. And the hallmark of franchising, and I know that some people can be critical of this, but the hallmark of franchising is that you give people the same experience no matter what market they're in.
Exactly.
You know, and we all know that if we stop at a McDonald's, whether we're in Portland, Oregon, or Portland, Maine, that hamburger is going to be the same.
Right.
And it's the same experience, and people come to rely on that and count on that experience, and that's why franchising has been so successful in so many industries.
Absolutely.
You know, and the last thing I always tell people is that you better have a unique marketing proposition. If you're going to try and franchise something and it's already been done, then you're at a real disadvantage. If you're just going to roll out the next hamburger chain franchise and there's nothing unique about what you do, then people are not going to be interested in buying into your system. They want to know, how do I compete with McDonald's, not how do I stand out there as a me too in comparison to McDonald's. So whether it's a new way of providing the service, whether it's a new way of collecting money, whether it's a new gimmick in terms of getting people in the door. I think of Pizza Patrón, for example, the pizza chain out of Texas that serves predominantly the Latino market that recently started to accept pesos.
Right,
and I mean, that's a great marketing proposition. It's a way to say, look, yeah, we sell pizza, but boy, is this ever, you know, a unique way to get people in the door, people who have different currencies and who have different issues. You know, we're gonna service that market. That's something unique, and that's one of the things that makes that chain particularly unique, and therefore it's able to attract people to become prospective franchisees.
Yeah, that pizza chain got a lot of PR too, Kevin, from that whole thing. You know, by doing something different. You know, it was they were pretty much in every national newspaper across the United States.
Right. Well, you know, there's the old saying that, you know, good PR or bad PR is the same. It's going to drive people in the door.
Right. And wasn't that your idea, Kevin, that accepting pesos?
That I would love to say that was my idea, but I'm not quite that creative.
You know, you brought up a good point about the uniqueness here. I mean, I don't know if you listened earlier, but last week we interviewed Badass Coffee, and you know, there's a lot of different coffee franchises, but they stand out because they're quality coffee. They have a Hawaiian theme.
Right.
They have a whole story behind it. It was why they're having success, Kevin, is this point you're bringing up about the unique marketing proposition.
Right, that's what I thought of, Don, as Kevin was explaining this. I thought of the same thing, Badass Coffee.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's a great example. There's lots of coffee purveyors out there.
Right.
What's the hook? What's the hook to get people to buy the franchise? And more importantly, what's the hook to get new customers in the door?
Exactly.
Right.
Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care.
If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Kevin Hine, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, go to our franchises by category page, and go to our franchise services category, and you can hear that whole interview with Kevin Hine. He was just fantastic. And lastly, we'd like to just thank everyone for making this podcast such a big hit. It's hard to imagine. We're going on our 10th year, 500th show. It's just been a wonderful experience. So thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.